right, so we are here with the incomparable Mike Ladman, world-renowned music supervisor in the ad business, currently rocking it, doing big things at Droga 5, and he loves what he does. And so this is an inside look on what he does as a music supervisor. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Ladman.
How you doing?
You like the intro?
I need you all the time around me, and if I enter a party, enter an office, a client meeting, you can be my hype man.
I'll be your hype man.
There we go.
So, I guess at the very beginning, give us a little bit of background on what it is that you do currently. I mean, you've won tons of awards, you've been on tons of judging panels, which, you know, says a lot about people's understanding of what your ear and what your eye is in this industry. So we're in advertising, you are a music supervisor. Just start out by defining what that role is.
Yeah, so I'm the music supervisor at the New York ad agency Droga 5. So if you've ever wondered who picks a soundtrack for a movie or a TV show, who picks those songs? How do those songs get in there? Do the artists get paid? All that. That's the job of a music supervisor. It's finding and securing the music rights or working with people to create that for film. So I just do it. My medium is advertising. So I do it for New York Times, Meta, Chase. I've done it for Google, Hennessy, like tons, countless brands and things you've seen. Super Bowl spots with Coors, Paramount Plus, a ton of things. So that's my job within the agency. And I founded the music department there just about 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So
So that's like in advertising years, that's like 40 something, isn't it?
Something like that, which is wild. And especially at Droga. So people may have heard of McCann Erickson or Ogilvy or these other big agencies from Mad Men, big ad show. Yeah. Droga 5, I just realized now is I think about 17 years old. So we're almost legal. Really? And I could track because I started right as we were about to do the 10-year anniversary party, which was awesome. We had Ghostface Killer, Kindness, Yes Sayer, Diane Coffee, Holy Ghost all performed for like 300 Drogans at the time.
Yeah, it sounds
on
like
Governor's Island.
A music supervisor's dream.
And I just started before it, so I got to just attend rather than having to plan, which was great. But that was kind of that was and still is the Droga kind of ethos and spirit, is that it's the cool indie we have since been bought, but it's the cool indie agency that does like all the award-winning work. So it's the kind of ads that you actually share. So we're famous for a bunch of our Hennessy work, also the Under Armour Michael Phelps spot, and countless others. But it's trying to, we don't call them ads, we call them, films and pieces, and try to hold the work to that level. So hopefully, if you enjoy watching it, it's more success all around.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when we spoke earlier, you had mentioned that you fell into music supervision.
Yeah.
Take me back to that story. Take me back as far as like a young Ladman trying to figure out what he wants to do for a living.
Yeah. I grew up playing hockey. I'm from New Jersey, so not too far from the city. Grew up coming to Ranger games and concerts, and I was on a bunch of ice hockey and roller hockey teams. And then in 5th grade, I picked up a guitar. Wow. And then that was like game over, from playing a couple ice and roller hockey leagues to just taking lessons and just daydreaming about playing guitar, getting up early before 6th grade to play guitar. And from that moment, my only trajectory was to be selling out the garden. Like I was rock star or hobo. Like that was kind of it. A couple of different bands. The one towards the latter part of high school was doing really well. Never got to tour. We only did a handful of shows, but we could sell over 100 tickets a show, starting to get opening slots. And then the singer left when I missed a practice to go look at the Berklee School of Music for guitar. And it was just, I don't know, got freaked out.
In Boston?
Yeah. So I looked at that, the only school that recognizes electric guitar as a real instrument, essentially. And once that happened, the band broke up, and I was like, well, now I got to figure out this college thing. I thought I'd go to Rutgers, which I didn't like, but just to keep the band together. Ended up at University of Delaware because it just looked like college. So if I'm going to do the thing, I want to do the thing that's the most college-y place. Wow. Ended up living at the record store freshman year until they hired me sophomore year, which is where I worked 30, 40 hours a week for the remaining 3 years of college while being a communications major, because like every other communications major, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
So funny.
My stepsister was an art director in advertising. And at some point when I was just totally lost in college, she like told me about it. And I always liked being creative, making things, scripting, or just kind of improv or whatever thing was going on at the time, just like being around that energy. So she helped me connect me to someone at McCann Erickson for an internship, and I applied to be a copywriter.
Wow.
I had one English class, like no portfolio, no real experience. She told me about ads, so I made a radio ad based off what she said could be. It was this whole thing about Swedish fish, which I still think is pretty good. Anyway, on that interview, they saw that my email was jhendricks@udel, because you could pick your own email. And I thought, like, what a nerdy school. No one else thought to be J Hendricks. It wasn't even J Hendricks 9. It was just J Hendricks, you know?
Like nobody else had
it. Wasn't J Hendricks 2 or 3 or anything. Meanwhile, everyone else used their name. So it was always a comment there. So that, I worked at a record store. I played guitar, and they're like, we really like you. It's a great energy, but they're like, you have no business being a copywriter at all. Why don't you work with our executive music producer, legend of the industry, Mike Boris, and like do music for us? And I said, what is that? Like, well, you pick and produce music for commercials. And it was like, that's a job? Like, someone does that and receives money for doing it? Like, what is this world? So I ended up getting that internship and finally having an outlet for this encyclopedic music knowledge I amassed being in a record store all day, every day.
That was literally your post-secondary education, was the record store.
Totally. That's like the Malcolm Gladwell, like that was my thing, was working in the record store. Also being on campus with Oink and What and Waffles. If anyone knows those torrent, there were these invite-only torrent sites where everything got leaked. And like, 2005, 2009, everything was there. So I had a full iPod, and I would have, Pitchfork really mattered at the time. And I would have New Animal Collective, Spoon, St. Vincent, LP, whatever it was, before he's even announced that there was an album from these sites. And I essentially, like at the time, that was like having Spotify before that was a thought. I could just go on. It was highly curated. Everything, 120, 320, lossless, but every album, one version only. It wasn't these like virus-filled things. So I had access. I was just like, oh, Tom Waits, he seems cool. I'll download his whole discography. So
coming from a world where you're looking through vinyl, you're sifting through records, and it's like having to choose and budget out which ones you're actually gonna buy because you can only afford so many of them, to a world where anything you could possibly think of, you just type it in the search bar and can find it.
Yeah.
That's next level for Music Minds. Because I remember that transition. I remember thinking, I could never buy all these records, but I can explore so much more this way. And like bumping into stuff that I never even expected or never even knew existed in that world. So, man, I remember that transition. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild to like hear about something, and then we'd all be like, "Oh, who is that?" It's like, go to All Music. Who was My Bloody Valentine influenced by? Go down Cocteau Twins and go down the rabbit holes that way. And then for me, I was just like, cool, I'll just download the whole discography.
Wow.
Boom. So it was pretty wild. And then now working with people like, and I now have an amazing junior music supervisor.
Yeah.
Mara, and I had MP3s of everything. I walked in with that. People now coming into supervision don't have MP3s. It's such a wild thought to even have that. So I came in like more prepared than I ever would have thought. And now I'm actually sort of transitioning to Spotify and figuring out how to navigate those playlists versus my iTunes playlist and my disco library.
It's too much.
Yeah, so I have an issue of trying to transfer iTunes to a new computer and it's not working, and there's nobody, it's like trying to find someone who can fix accordions. There's one guy somewhere in New York.
Exactly.
But I got to find my iTunes fixer.
Okay, so what happens next? You're at McCann now.
Yes, yeah.
And they say, go try out this other thing. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So do you just figure it out? Does somebody train you? Is there a moment where it's like, hey, come here, kid, let me show you how to do this thing?
Yeah. So that would be Mike Boris was the EP there. And at that level, it was that, and there was a guy, Kirk Campion, and there was a bunch of people that helped. But I say Kirk because he ran all the new business pitches and in-house internal rips. So in advertising, there's the films you see on TV, and then there's so much extra content that is made for clients to win clients.
Sure.
when there's a campaign selected, there's, 3 to 5 others that are pitched and worked on before that one is selected to go to broadcast. So that was really like a fertile ground for me to start pitching stuff where there's a little lower stakes and I can help right on the ground and see picture. And that first time you have a film with no music and you're like, what does go here? I remember you didn't know, but you'd get a brief. We need something like this. And also learning songs you think work based off the brief, but do those songs work in 30 seconds? So when we said, uplifting, anthemic, big songs, I was Explosions in the Sky. That's a 5-minute bill. There's a band Buttons I love too. These like noise things. Their songs are epic because of the tension they build over 8 minutes.
Right.
So it's like, cool, yeah, it gets there, but like I need 3 tiers. I need distinction and modes. So learning songs that fit that description, yes, but do they fit the film in 30 seconds? And immediately seeing the differences. What does a rock song do to picture? What does hip hop do? And I think starting to figure out my style of what I liked for how things moved picture. Because now a music search is, I think, very hypothetical until you see it with picture. You have an idea of, okay, we have storyboards for a film, and we have an idea for what the music needs to be. Once you get that film, it could just be the overcast shadow. It could be the actors have a different performance. Sometimes what you get is not what you storyboard. And the type of film, the performances, the pacing of the edit, all now have kind of become ingredients for what songs I think will work for film.
Right.
Does the music have to be faster because the edit or the performances are lackluster? I have to make up, or do I want to slow it down with music? Do I want to make it brighter? Is it the star? Is it a supporting?
So as a music supervisor, you're relying a lot on what you see. Do you ever have to pick music before you see anything?
All the time. We always do it before. We're always preparing and
so you've
trying
got
to find
a list of options. These are the things that I think will work. And then once we actually get the footage that we shoot, let's try a bunch of them.
Let's see if it works. Exactly.
See if it works. Try the picture.
Exactly.
So you get a chance to try a few things out before you share with the client.
Totally. So
after, is the client in the room?
Could be a year in the
when
making, right? It could be a year in the making. So, creatives, there's different teams within an agency all pitching their ideas to a creative director to see the head creative, to see what then gets presented to client to answer their brief. So the way ad agencies work is we have our clients, we're agency of record. So we do, all of Chase's work, all of Meta, all those things like that, Accenture.
So agency of record is you are the agency on record to represent and do all the advertising for a specific brand.
Exactly.
Okay, so back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're getting an opportunity to pick these songs.
To help
pitch
kind of
the songs.
So there's a hierarchy of approvals. It's more of a gauntlet of approval. As I think, so I heard someone say that and I've stole it ever since, but it's really a gauntlet of approvals because music is in theory subjective, but some people's opinions are wrong, I would say.
Wow.
But usually, so the way there are those, it's rare, but you do have those moments where those undeniable goosebumps. Yeah. And it's like the first track, it goes goosebumps or it just, everyone gets it. And if there's one person who just doesn't, for whatever reason, they're ideally overpowered and not the tallest person on the totem pole. But so my creatives brief me. Sometimes we have a very specific brief. We need a lyric about magic, something being magical and touching and magic and that. Or they can be like, here, what do you think? We're not sure what music should be. Regardless, I give my own perspective. Here's your brief, and here's some other things maybe you haven't thought of or other ways in, either lyrically or instrumentally or musically.
Right.
So I have my first level of creatives, and then that moves up to maybe 1 to 3 tiers of internal creatives, and then that gets presented. Our selects get presented to the client, and then again, there's probably 1 to 3 tiers of clients that all have to agree that this song, makes the film the best. This is the best song for the film. And
if nobody likes it, we start back at the bottom again.
Yeah, and usually there's always from that first time they get a brief, I'd say a typical search is like 1 to 3 rounds to go to that first client presentation. From there, based off that feedback, it could be another 1 to 3 rounds. And then we shoot, and then it can go as many as it needs to go. We did a Levi's, 3 spots, 3 films for the Grammys last year, all simultaneously. Each film went over 20 rounds, which is pretty wild. If you go about 9 to 10 rounds of tracks, each search having roughly 10 to 20 tracks, I would say, depending on where you're at with the search. Are you sending a lot of different directions? Are you sending all different genres?
Right.
Or do you have it honed in or trying to find the right lyric?
Right.
20 is kind of crazy, but there is all different factors at play with regional music, Jamaican and 80s, post USSR, dark wave and things. It took a lot.
And was this spot like had multiple songs?
There's 3 songs all at once.
That's right. I know the one. Yeah.
We've done a bunch of those spots as well, where there's 3 to 5 songs in one spot.
That's tough.
Which is a whole other thing. But there's a lot of people, and sometimes that happens because those spots were all amazing, and so we wanted to make sure we had the best song, and so time can be your friend or an enemy. I think of creativity. Deadlines are just a necessary evil. Yeah. Everyone curses them, but without them, there would be no finished album. You'll go forever. So, yeah, sometimes you do find that track in round 22. Usually it's in round 1, but you have to go through the process.
So knowing that process, how do you prepare for that? How does young Mike Ladman prepare for that? How do you get your head wrapped around, how do I prepare? What school do I go to? What am I training in? What am I learning to be able to handle this kind of process?
Yeah. So I think from my era of music supervisors and earlier, people did fall into it. Now there are courses. I've spoke at NYU, all different courses in California. There's actually a lot of music business schools that have music supervision and clearance in the course. So it's wild to me that that's now being taught. But it's super helpful because it's tough to get in, and I think people romanticize the title music supervisor.
Sure.
But the job is picking music based off brief or film.
Right.
And you could be at a record label or a music publisher. I think most people know what a record label is. A music publisher are rights holders of songs. So record labels have the recordings of the songs. The Beatles, when you hear John Lennon, Paul McCartney, that is the master recording. Record labels have that. Publishers are the songwriters. So it's those chords on paper. And there's different parties who represent different sides of that. So we work with all those people, because if we want to use a Beatles song, we have to clear the master recording and the publishing, which can have different parties. And so we work with Sony and Universal, and when we're strapped and we need extra ideas or we need things that'll have to hit a certain budget, we'll send out our search.
Right.
And so when we do that, they're getting a brief and they're sending back music. So to me, that is music supervision. It doesn't have the title, but you're with music all day. You're working with artists, you're working with supervisors. And I know that a lot of supervisors, when there's just not that many jobs with that title.
Right.
So it's just good for people, if they're interested, don't be focused on the title. If you want to get paid to listen to music and go to concerts for free and pitch music, it's oddly crazy and stressful. That sounds like all the fun stuff, and it's not. There's a lot more to it than that music part. But if between labels, publishers, music houses, there's a lot of ways to work with music for film, and then there's trailers, film, TV, but that's not my area to speak to as a specialist. But there's a lot of ways in. So I think you can take courses in it. There's quite a lot. I would say ideally school would be the best if you can do that, rather than there's some other things around. We're also like very much behind the scenes. So you can reach out directly to music supervisors. Pitching your music to a music supervisor is very different than expressing interest in the path.
Great. And
I think, because I know I got very lucky out of college, someone just gave me a shot. I know you only have so many years to play that college card. In college, just graduated. I know I will do my best to respond to college kids as much as I can, because they're hungry. They just want to learn. They're trying to figure it out. And I remember what that was like. And they're also more willing to not make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money, or you could work in music. It's rare that they're the same thing, and especially when you're starting out. You know, there are certainly levels you can get there, but like when you're starting out in the music everyone wants to work in music because a lot of people love music. So
Sure.
that base salary is not going to be awesome. College kids can handle that. When I get the finance friend who's like 30 something and questioning their life choices and suddenly wanting to get into music, I'm like, cool. What are your thoughts on 30 grand a year or something?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? It's like, that's what it's going to be, because your skills don't transfer to this thing.
Yeah.
And there's a whole line of people willing to work for free.
So you touched on that young kid out of college. I spoke to a kid the other day who was thinking about going to college and had some questions about, okay, what does it look like to do music? I just know I love music. I play a fiddle. I don't know what that means for my future, but I know I want to check out some schools in Nashville. I want to see what, that's a great music city. I want to know what it's like to, hey, what courses do I take? Do I just get involved? Do I, be part of a record company? What does that look like? What are the roles? And so all the bells are going off in my head because I'm like, well, that sounds like you would be into music supervision. But my instruction to this guy was, hey, start getting hands-on to see if you actually have some love for maybe the production part of it. Because if you like to create music, that's one aspect.
Exactly.
And if that's something that doesn't pique your interest, at least having a knowledge of that is, I think, good to go into something where if you understand some of the mechanics of music, you can speak that language. So talk to me about that. Have you dabbled in making your own music as a creator? I know you're a guitar player, you love the instrument, but how much of that rolls into what you're doing as a music supervisor?
Yeah, that's a great point, because when people say, I love music, and they just don't know what to do with that, it's broad.
Yeah.
So
Are you a fan of music?
Yeah.
Or like what aspect of music do you love?
Because there's so many parts of it. So I think the music house one is great. If you're a creator, music houses are what you would think of as like a jingle company. And so they're people who there are these companies made up of producers and composers who, when we say we have a 30-second, 60-second commercial, we need an original score because we don't want to license an existing whatever artist song. We need something that's tailor-made for a picture. We go to them and they'll give us some demos. They'll create stuff with picture based off our brief. And then we work with them to revise, hey, more French horn, no hand claps,
more
whatever
cowbell.
it is, more cowbell. No, for me, it's
Swooshes.
always, there's no cymbal swells, hand claps, or record scratches in anything I work on. Those are hard no's. I will remove them
You
or
heard
cut
it
them
here
out.
first, folks.
And what is a cymbal swell? It's if you watch a reality show, this will ruin all of them for you. Every time they change scene or look at one palm tree to a blurry fast car going by, there's a shh, and then a different person, or then like different person talking to family member. Shh, it's that little cymbal thing, and then they're talking in an ice cream parlor. It's every 3 seconds, and it's a terrible, cheap way to do whatever. Anyways, a transitional moment. It's like a star swipe of music, in my opinion. So yeah, there are a lot of avenues within music, and so I got my start creating once, playing in bands.
Yeah.
Didn't know this was a thing, but I was always the friend who liked finding the new music to share with friends. I worked at a record store. Now I could share music with strangers. What do you like? Cool. Here's 2 or 3 bands that you might not know, but based off this, that you would like. Now I find I get to share music, kind of with the world, which is a beautiful thing. And ideally, new music. There's also a lot of different lanes in supervision. So I have probably this niche of the unknown, odd, and weird. And I'm very fortunate that both Droga and our clients look for that. Because I know some people who would love to do that, but their clients don't demand that. If you have, a general fast food or something, they're probably not making risky music decisions. I'm in a place of a culture that looks to me for that. And I strongly advocate for that. And I think the rewards for everyone involved as a viewer or client or agency of being a part of music discovery, like those peaks are higher than just doing a known song that's safe. Okay, people immediately hear it and kind of have an affinity towards it. And it's sort of, I think you could equate that to pop music with samples and interpolations. Oh, this is familiar. I like it already. But it sits in a pocket. It gets your ear right away. But I don't think it's quite as satiating or as thrilling as this is something. What is this? This is something totally new.
That's that moment for me that always gets me. When I'm maybe doing something else, I'm focused on something else. I'm in the kitchen, the TV's on, or I may have to be paying attention between, a TV show the commercials come on, I pick up my phone and I'm doing something else. When it stops me dead in my tracks and I have to say, what is that? Who is that? Or like, I gotta Shazam it because I need to know right now who that is and I want that as part of my collection. It's a special moment.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's like the dragon we're always chasing.
Yeah.
And I think as you progress in life, like I think as a kid, there's so many frozen snapshots of times. I know the first time I heard the Kinks' Waterloo Sunset. I know the first time I heard a Dream Theater guitar solo. All these different moments are kind of crystallized, like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
But they still happen. And I think we're all chasing that and trying to find that. And that's what supervision that I love doing, is when I can hopefully share that with the world, whether it's K Tempest spoken word or this late 60s Mandarin cover of Bang Bang in a boxing spot and hearing things out of context. And so that's where
goosebumps on that one.
that was a fun kind of wild one.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
But you were talking about the playing. I got sidetracked. But once I got into this, I was like, oh my God, I was just swept away. And that suddenly I was just getting sent CDs. So music supervision has become, I think, popular because of the use of licensed music in TV shows and movies has really popularized. Everyone wants to do Euphoria or Atlanta. Those are both Jen Malone, who's an incredible music supervisor. Stranger Things, moments like that have highlighted it. And from the public, it's attractive, but from the music industry and artist perspective, it's incredibly attractive because of the fees. And particularly in advertising, maybe trailers are the two biggest budgets. So, something that's in a film or TV are kind of considered more art. So the fee will be, 5 to 10 times less than what I would have to pay for that brand association. So artists love it for not only the exposure, but for the actual just dollars that come with that, which for advertising often are in the 6 figures to 7 figures. And so it's significant immediate pay, as opposed to, I think everyone is acutely aware of all the streaming issues that artists are having and canceling tours because of all these other fees. So it's exposure and money, which is tough to get.
Yeah.
So that's why that's so appealing. There's so many people looking to do this. But as a kid who just fell into it, I suddenly was getting CDs just sent to me, because when I first started, I'm a huge vinyl guy, but it's just, that's how you got music. That sounds so dated now, doing this 15 years.
10 song sampler on CD from the labels.
Exactly. The CD, or just getting watermarked Flying Lotus and Of Montreal, like Mike Ladman Flying Lotus. Like, holy shit, this is so cool. That was wild. I still have thousands of CDs at home.
Wow.
Whatever I didn't want, I would then go to my record store and trade in and get vinyl. But I got swept away in that, and then suddenly I could go to pretty much any concert for free, because everyone wants supervisors to like their music in hopes of getting it placed for that financial and exposure rewards.
They want to make you aware of it. A tastemaker, somebody who is in front of these big brands at the agency, sitting with the creative teams, bringing things to the attention of everybody involved in this creative process. They want to make sure that their artist is on your radar.
And we pitch what we love. Ideally, we're lucky enough to not just listen to music and pitch it, but get to pitch what we love. So stuff that we love, every supervisor has like hundreds of songs that they've been pitching for years and waiting for that moment where they get to place artist X in anything. Or share this moment with the world. So that's kind of where that comes in, and it's how we do discover music, are through those channels. But I got so swept away in that I forgot about the creation for years. And I also came to a point where I'm around these incredible musicians, and it was like, if it's not better than Johnny Greenwood or Gary Clark, like, what's the point of creating? Because these guys are doing it so much better, which is, I think, a fear for a lot of people trying to do anything. Well, someone's already created a t-shirt. Why should I make a t-shirt company?
Well, that's it. I think that's the limiting belief that we as humans have. It's like, it's all been done before. I can't do it better than that. But,
so what?
But the truth of the matter is, with all of your influences filtered through you, all your experiences, all the things that are rolling around that head of yours with music, when you put pen to paper, when you put finger to drum machine, when you put hands to keyboard, it's always going to produce something different based on all those influences. So I used to struggle with that as a musician, like as a producer. Oh man, this is so good. This latest Timberland thing that came out, man, how did he figure out that swing? That's incredible. And you're like, let's never get there. But then when you go to do your thing, which you think you're doing something in that world, it's completely different.
Totally.
Right? It's like fingerprints. So I get that. It's a limiting belief. We've all done it. Anybody who's in creative has had that moment where they're like, I suck.
Right, everyone has that. And then you do the thing, you finally do create, which I do now do, and it's like, is this good? And you love it one day, and then you wake up like, is this cheesy? Is this the worst thing ever? And then the next day, no, it's cool, and you're excited. And that constant battle, as I'm about a year into producing and creating now, it just, I don't think ever goes away. No. I love, and especially when you share, it's so fun to share it with people, to share with them in the room at the same time. I think Questlove compared it to opening up your weird aunt's, Hanukkah Christmas gift in front of her. Like if you're playing your music for someone, it's like, oh, I love these socks. It's just a bunch of people in a room head nodding and like,
and how long do you play it for?
You know? Yeah. But that has led me to finally in the last year or so, producing and not comparing to him, but in terms of what I maybe do in the room process, like kind of Rick Rubining. So I was very good at guitar. I just took lessons for 8 years and sat in front of a metronome for years. So got very good, but don't want to make guitar music. I'm around so many composers and producers in the sense of running, Logic, Ableton, pushing all the buttons to make the noises, and that it was so intimidating to look at a computer screen. But I found value in knowing and listening to probably, being in the top 0.01% of most music listened to, because that's just what I've been doing my whole life, but properly for a job for 15 years now. And being able to, like I was saying, these Mandarin, whatever these references are and things that I look to, whether it's Togolese soul comp that just came out or Congolese funk, all these interesting things with an ear towards accessibility, not weird for the sake of weird and ironicness and just challenging to be cool. I like this weird thing, stuff I love that I think other people will love if they were exposed to it in the right way. Working with artists and producers to kind of bring these sounds out in music that, pop producers are making pop and rarely hear these or try to go towards these sound because they're going for that thing that works. Yeah. In our world, in the ad world, people are trying to make the thing that always works in the ad. And we know those references of artists that you hear that we know that the public doesn't, maybe not so aware that is over-referenced, So it's my favorite thing. I feel super lucky that people want me in the room, and it's very enlivening, where the next morning after a session, I'll wake up physically energized. And a session, the sausage for how pop music or music is made is that it's a lot of awkward first dates. Yeah. You have a producer, an artist, maybe a top liner, 2 to 3 people who maybe have met, likely haven't met, go in this little room together and just create. And it's the most kind of vulnerable and awkward thing of just, you're going to go in and you're going to come out with a song. It's like a weird arranged marriage.
Yeah, you have to literally open yourself up, your most intimate things creatively, that in a lot of cases you've only shared on your own. You've come up with ideas in your bedroom, in your shower, whatever. And now you have to lay all those out in real time in front of strangers.
Yeah. and it's people you think are cool. And like, is it cool? Is it good? Is this? What if we tried that? So it could start with a drum loop. It could start with, it's sort of like a party. If you're the first one there, it's like 3 people, 5 people in a room, like chewing chips and opening up a drink. Yeah. And then at some point, it's not like at 12:03, it was a party, but there's some point where it's fun and it's a party. Yeah. And if it's a party, you're not texting your friends to come. If people are telling you to come, it's probably because it's not good yet. If someone said, I'll text you there if it's good, if they're not texting, it's probably good. That's such a great analogy. And I think that's sort of like the moments where you're just in this room and no one even wants to go to the bathroom because there's like, there's something happening where someone just thought of a bass line or a vocal and you don't want to like, it's like sports. You don't want to move. For me, it's hockey, the Rangers. I don't want to move when they're winning. Growing up, my dad, if the Rangers were winning, if he was laying on one side, he wouldn't move until the game was over, And you kind of don't want to jinx it. And in the room, there's this magic when a singer is in a zone or the bass player is just in the pocket
The
playing.
molecules are just right right now.
No one breathe. He's just doing it. He doesn't know he's doing it. He's in that flow state.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And so like being in that is fun and humbling, because if you nail it one day, if you have a great song, that next day, whatever you did is completely irrelevant, because you are down to nothing. There's no song, there's no melody. And it's fun and scary. And I think that's like an exciting place to kind of live. And it's clearly very addictive, because why is Paul McCartney or the Rolling Stones still making music? They don't need the money. They don't have to do anything. There's just nothing like that feeling. And I think that's why musicians just keep going.
I love it. You said earlier that you love to share music with your friends, the discoveries that you have. So talk to me about that, because you have a weekly playlist that you publish on Instagram, on Spotify, and you just keep adding to this monster playlist. And it's Mike Ladman's Discovery, right?
Ladman Music Discovery.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about that, because I feel like I've dipped in and out of that, and I'm like, man, where do you find the stuff? Do you feel like now that you've committed to it, you have to stick to it, and now it's a labor of love? Or is this something that you will just continue to do for the rest of your life because you just love it? It's
all the above, but I think we could start to why did I start? When I first started at Droga, it was like, Droga 5 monthly, and they shared it on socials and internally. And I'm very much a perfectionist. And it would take me, monthly really meant 1 to every 3 months, because that was the structure. I don't know if they gave it to us or it's something we said, but it was 10 songs.
Okay.
10 songs monthly or something.
So this was a company initiative.
Initiative when we started the music department. That was like a thing to introduce yourselves to the world, to the agency. So it started, but it would take like 3 months. And that happened for the first 4 or 5 years there. It's like, we got to do it. Oh yeah, here it is again. It's like randomly this thing. But for me, the things I was always looking for was new, old, male, female, and the new English, not English. And a big part of the playlist now is everything at the time added is under 1 million streams at the time it's been added. So those are kind of the ingredients for every week that I have now, and that have been like more solidified as it's been going on for now 3.5-ish years.
Wow.
10 songs. It's a growing playlist. I had 10 songs, then remove it, and new 10 songs. But then people are like, wait, I like the songs from last week. I didn't save. Where are they? So that's why it's a growing playlist. So it started as 10 songs, and it's now 1,300 or 1,500 songs. Which if I see a playlist of like, if someone's sending me music and it's more than 20 or 30 songs, my thought is curate your shit. Like curate. That's what I'm looking to you for, is to be the curator, whether that is a publisher, label, someone pitching me music. Your job is to curate. Don't send me a whole album. Send me what you think is the best.
Wait, why do you say that? Let's talk practical. Why do you say, hey, curate your stuff, don't send me your whole catalog of music you've created? Why do you only want it? Why do you want it called?
So for what I do, there's a specific thing that I think music works well. Like ads, there's things that work well for ads, and there's so many different briefs that anything can work at any point, just based off some genres and things I've thrown at you. Clearly, there's not everything, but there's certain things that do hit and come up a lot. Right. Things that work for TV and film, like there's stuff that lands better there versus things that work better in ads. And because ads, we're working in 30 to 60 second worlds, so every second really matters.
Yeah.
As a consumer, you don't think that, but in film and TV, you can have a scene that could be 3 to 5 minutes, and there's 50 tracks in a movie, and it could just be music playing background in a bar. As opposed to being the whole thing. Those montage scenes we all know and love, that music is everything. So when I'm going through music, I have a separate inbox just for music submissions. So the thing that I loved in the beginning, I'm like, all this music being sent to me. I still love that, of course, but it's overwhelming. So when I was saying I help college kids as opposed to people pitching music, because, everywhere, there's always people want their songs in ads, so everyone is constantly pitching me music, so I want it curated of the people who know what works for ads. There's certain playlists of uplifting things, songs about death and explicit are not going to be in many ads, most likely. So
when they're sending them to you for like, hey, I'm hoping that you find something on this list of music that I have that would work in your world for advertising.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I want to make clear for anybody who's thinking about, hey, I want to get into this or want my music to be received by a music supervisor or a music house or whatever, is for somebody trying to figure this thing out is to understand that people in our world, in advertising, it moves quickly and there's a lot to manage. You know, you coming in here, it's, you know, the evening, the end of the workday, you're still taking messages, emails are flying in, phone calls need to happen. There's a lot of stuff to manage. So I think what people need to understand is that, hey, really be strategic about what you're sending when you're trying to solicit your music or when you're trying to even communicate with somebody in these positions where you're trying to figure out, hey, how can I get into what you do? How can I get into your world? Show me what you got. Okay, awesome. The door's open for me to share what I've got. Be strategic about what you send because that person may not have time to listen.
Totally.
Or they got time to listen to the first 3 and then they get a phone call and they're distracted
100%.
and then 12 more emails came in and there's a fire to be put out.
And if you're sending something, probably shouldn't be more than 3 to 5. If you're a cold email sender, and I think the best success for anything in any conversation, whether it's at Sweet Green for dinner or you're at a bar talking to a girl or a friend or a family or an email, is just empathy. What is it for the other person? Going up to, going up to Dr. Dre and say, hey, check out my beats. Like, what does that do for him? Like, how is that going to help him? Sure, it helps you, but think about the other side of that is like, hey, I love you. I'm a fan. And here's the stuff I love. Ask questions, show interest. Think about how you would want to be approached and then come at it from the other angle. So for submitting music, I'd say do your homework. Like, people sending me songs about Pringles. I've never worked on a potato chip brand in my career. So like, I would say targeted instead of just shotgun approach is always the best. Brevity is great too. And so it's, hey, Ladman, I loved your work on this. Who doesn't like being a little buttered up? Like, keep it within a reason, but like, this was great. I do this one sentence. Here's 3 songs. I hope you like them. Have a great day. If there's anything I have to do to help you, or whatever, figure that out. But how do you provide help to someone who doesn't want help?
Yeah,
I
love that. And I've heard that in so many industries, like not just our industry.
Exactly.
It's like, how can you add value? I think that's the thing that people need to recognize is stop holding your hand out for an opportunity and start to be part of the process to make something happen for the person you're trying to get at or add value to.
I would hope any good boss is down for anyone to make them look good.
Yeah.
And hopefully they've been fortunate enough to have the good thing where they want to bring people. Same thing discovering music is discovering talent. First time hiring something. And Mara, my junior, is amazing. If anyone, Mara Teckham is awesome. I'm better at my job because of her. Hopefully she's learning, but I know I'm learning new ways, and having that support is huge. And diversity of thoughts and opinions. And I think trust in that and empathy and like, are you someone that people want to hang with is a good thing. Because I think in our industry, or most, doesn't matter, it's a job, people forget that part, that you are with someone a lot of time.
Yeah.
40 hours a week, we all know it's way more than that. Particularly in the music industry, there's dinners, there's coffees, there's lunches, there's concerts, there's parties.
Yeah.
If there's someone more qualified on paper, yeah, you have those degrees, but you're annoying, or there's just no vibes. Like, there's no situational awareness.
See, there's no course for that in college.
There's like, just
That's
be,
problem.
right? That's the thing. It's like that reading the room is such, when to talk, when not to talk, when to like ask a question in the room, when to wait to ask your boss after. But there's, I think that vibe check is a big thing. So like, I think that's something to always bring in the room of like, how do you want to be? How do you want to spend your time? And I know now, I was just talking to someone today who's looking to hire someone, and there's generational differences with maybe work ethic and also pandemic, whatever it may be. To me, it's an insane thought of like, what's work-life balance here? I don't know if that's some old thing of us grinding to get to where we are, or there's just a different love for what we do. But hearing that in a job interview like is wild. That someone's like, so what's work-life balance? And concerned about that. Obviously, we all want that, and I think if you're good at your time you'll do that. The best work, I think, particularly in our world, is the hardest.
Yeah.
So there's going to be late nights and weekends, but I always described it that at Droga often those later hours or extra hours because you wanted it to be great. You knew there was something great there. For a little cheesy whatever ad with a, like when you have to get stuck on weekends, not everything is this big award-winning Super Bowl spot.
Sure.
It's just, a whatever commercial selling something. And it's a lot of VO talking to you about a product, and you make that as good as you can. And that's fine. Working late nights on that. But when you're on something special, it's like, if this film is great, everyone will know this thing. You can walk into a room and be like, I did that. You know that thing?
Yeah.
I helped on that. And there's a pride in that. And it's difficult. And that's why I can go 20 rounds, because is this the best? What will be the thing to breach someone yelling at you in an ad to being a part of culture that people enjoy?
It's hard, and it's hard to put an end time on that when you're so close and you're trying to find it. Like, to be
that's
like,
what a ship date is.
All right, guys. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. It's 5:00. I'm done.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out tomorrow.
And I think if you love something, that you can't turn it off. Like, wake up in the middle of the night, like, what about this song? Or that's the thing you were talking about, Shazamming. I'm gonna drop my phone in the toilet one day, being like, one up, and it's like, oh man, like, what is this? Like, I can't turn that off. It's like my favorite. I city bike everywhere, but on the subway, I hope it doesn't look weird. I'm always like, what are you listening to? What are you listening to? Like, I can't turn it off. And so
Here comes that
back
creep
to
again.
the right? I'm like, what is that? Okay, that. And that's sort of where the playlist, some of it evolves from, is that everyone asks, what are you listening to? Because this is your thing. What do you do? And I think there's often instant amnesia of like going into a record store. There's so many records I want. You go and like, what do I want? What are you listening to? Immediately, people, I think, go blank when they're in the industry because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They overthink, or they listen to so many things they don't know, or they maybe had a day.
So how do you manage that? You have so much music in your head. Are you just a savant when it comes to remembering music? Do you have it categorized in different compartments in there? Like, because a lot of music. I've spent some time with you, and every time we talk, you have new bands, new thoughts, an intimate relationship with the music that you remember. And that, I think, is very special. I don't think that everybody has that quality because there's so much music. And you're constantly discovering more music. So you're adding to it. It's not like you just have a repertoire of an era and you're really good at sticking with that. It's ever evolving. How do you manage that?
It's funny. My girlfriend, she said, she's like, not a bad way. She's like, but I think you might be a little bit on the spectrum for that reason. And I'm like,
that's what my wife says too.
I'm like, she's like, how do you, I'm like, she's like, I thought I knew music. And then like, I met you, and I'm like, I don't know. It's some of that stuff. It just feels like I thought everyone would know this band who influenced that band, which is why this sample is here. It was something I was always just fascinated about. I think back to that perfectionism thing. It's like, if I wanted to be music, I wanted to be like the best at being a fan of this band. In college, I loved Grizzly Bear. I loved Pavement, My Bloody Valentine, Aphex. I wanted to know everything about these bands. And so that got into influences. And then it is that, it's so funny. I mean, when I was dating, it was very much sometimes tough to be present because like either I know the song cool or like, why are they playing the song? It can totally just change the vibe. So it's not necessarily like intentional, like I'm remembering things like Larry David Reid of the Constitutional peeing in Curb Your Enthusiasm this season. I don't know, it's just stuck, and it seemed like something I thought that everyone had this thing. But I'll remember, that band played that in the middle of their set list of some show from whatever years ago. I don't know, it just...
Dude, that's on the whole other level.
Way,
it's one thing to be like, hey, I know that song.
I remember that they played it.
Yeah, the detail of it is interesting to me. I find that a little bit on the spectrum. There's some savant stuff going on there for sure.
Yeah,
but it's working.
But it's also because I still love it. I still love finding that new thing, that thing that stops you, that stops me is my favorite thing. So the playlist was a way to try to share. I think, when we grew up and there wasn't all this unlimited access to music, you had your punk kids, your hip hop kids, like the popular, there was like, you were defined by your genre.
Sure.
And how you looked, you could kind of, okay, they probably listen to this or that. Now it's the opposite, where people are scared to be identified by a genre for the most part. It's like, I listen to everything except maybe country, like, you know, that or metal. Those are the polarized. I listen to everything except for country or metal or like or screaming music, whatever that may be.
Yeah,
is what a lot of people will say. And I found just if I am looking on phones, everyone on the bus is the train. I'm not a bus guy. There's anything wrong with bus people, but it's just I don't know. Anyways,
for the train,
just never did it. It's just not a thing. But what is that? Everyone's just always listening to Drake or whatever the thing was, which was fine. And then just seeing all these hip hop albums are just so long. And I'm like, are they just doing this because people don't know what to listen to? So they just put on the latest thing because it's 2 hours long for some reason. Doesn't have to be, but there's streaming tactics behind some of that, I think. And so it hit this point where I think people are more willing to listen to more music and they just don't know where to find it. Paralysis of choice.
Yeah.
And so people are always asking me, so it's easy to speak, what I listen to? Like, here's a playlist. Here's what I'm listening to. Here's 10 songs I found this week. Here's songs I think you'll like that I don't think you know. It was a big thing. And here's stuff I don't think you would know to find. Like, that was 2 discoveries this week from Analog Africa and Africa 7 were these 2 compilations, Toga Soul 2 and Congo Funk, which are awesome. And like people who know, but this is the kind of music that you would hear being sampled by other music, you know, that, you know, whatever, Ye, whatever you want to say there, or Jay-Z, whatever it might be, or whoever, or, you know, the Metro Boomin thing, you know, like whoever it might be, like those samples, those sounds. So it's also in order. So the playlist, most people I think just shuffle at this point, but it is very intentional. It's probably about 300 to 500 tracks a week of intentional listening that I'm going through from various playlists, blogs, a lot of Bandcamp. I find these labels from around the world that do these reissues and things like that and have alerts on. And then just if I find some weird song, you know, Arabian disco, what other playlists, does that person playlist? And then, so it's, I don't know, probably like Bandcamp, there's a bunch of blogs, there's probably another playlist of people I know, people I don't know. I'll steal from other supervisors. Like whoever's got good songs, I'm just trying to find great songs. And then there is an order to it. So it probably may seem like chaos at first, but if you actually listen through, it's very intentional. So there's probably, you know, about 3 to 5 hours of just the listening and then another hour to 3 of the ordering of the songs. Because if I just hit you with that Congo funk, you might not be ready for it. But if it's following a hip hop song that like, oh, there's actually a similar break beat or an energy between these 2 songs that seem totally unrelated, there is a little bit red thread. It's a way to listen to that, you know? It's sort of that's the idea, is that people will listen to it in the right thing. It's sort of like omakase, right? So sushi is, you know, the chef's pick. There is a pacing. The chef has control. The chef's DJ set. You know, he's not going to hit you with the Otoro right away. You know, he's going to work through that. He'll start with like simpler flavors, and then he'll hit you with some mackerel and things like that, more complex, and finish with uni, which is a kind of a polarizing thing. Right. But ideally, with the sequence of flavors, it's kind of preparing you for those bolder flavors. Those, for me, the bolder sounds, more unfamiliar sounds. So it's poetic. Trying to warm people up to that.
That's amazing. Okay, so you've got this thing.
So also it is a little bit of every week, because sometimes like, oh, like I didn't do it. Like, sorry.
But
like
you're committed
Sunday.
to it. It's every week.
Now it is, yeah.
It's every week. You're putting this much thought into it. Clearly, there is some rhyme to the reason of what's happening on this playlist, which is fascinating, because I think some people could just assume that, oh, I just got a bunch of things, I'm using the Spotify algorithm, I'm grabbing a bunch of things and I'm throwing it up there just so I can stay on Instagram and make a post. But it's clear that you've really, and I've seen it and felt it, because I do feel a thread. Everything that you're saying, by the way, I'm resonating with, because I've listened through and felt that something feels intentional here. It doesn't feel like it's random. Cool. You can go to different places within the playlist, but it does feel intentional. And so the commitment to do that weekly with your work schedule, with everything else that you're doing, with now trying to get into creating music, and you're doing other things, right? You've DJ'd at places. So talk to me about that. Is that like a side hustle for you? Is that another, I just love to do it?
It's just fun. I think because of this other thing, should is always a dangerous word in anything, but do it more. But it's interesting that they're sort of separate. doing the playlist helps all these other things.
Right.
It helps going into sessions to create music because I could bring in interesting references and things that they haven't quite heard. And that's exciting instead of trying to make another Ariana Grande song, whatever that the flavor of the month might be. For DJing, it's where I find tracks that other people aren't going to have. For music supervision, once you're a supervisor, all the labels and everyone are sending you music. So everyone's kind of getting the same playlists. If everyone goes to the Gap, we're all going to look the same. So if we're all getting sent, the supervisors are all getting sent the same music, some of the music that gets put out may be a little bit more homogenized in some ways. Nothing wrong with that, but it's like if I find music in other ways, hopefully I can pitch stuff that other people aren't pitching, and that'll lead back to that unique thing where I'm hoping that's a way where I'm getting that aha moment, goosebump moment from something I haven't heard before. It's another way that maybe I could share that moment with more people, essentially. So I think that's where I think that is. It helps the other thing. It is work. There are some times I'm like, Sunday, it's nice out, I want to go out, but I still have to go through another 200 songs and then order the playlist. And the last couple of weeks have been like a little busy, so it hasn't been out on Sunday. It's maybe been Monday or Tuesday, but it's somewhere within that week. I have not missed a week in over 2 years, even when I was at a beautiful wedding in Mauritius, Africa. And it is like a whole process, and it's both, because there are still those things. It's just like one hit. Find that one song that I'm psyched on, and I just always wanted to share it with the world. And I've also found that if there's someone I know, I'll just text them a song like that. Yo, you'd love this song. Like I know my buddy David Hoffman loves like funky groove things and weird stuff, or Nick Keenan likes bangers that are kind of wild. So I'll do that. So the playlist, I still do it. There's like a general text number. If you sign up for it, I'll text you the playlist whenever it's updated.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was that I think friends often in my community all share music via text. So let me do that on a larger scale. Maybe I should promote that more. I don't know, but it's on like, the IG of like text here and sign up for my playlist. I think it's on there. I don't even know anymore.
We'll check.
But that
we'll
was
leave it in the show notes for people to.
That was the idea behind that. And it's kind of stayed the same roughly.
It's good, because I think a lot of people would want to just keep that close. Like, these are my gems and I don't want anybody else to hear them. But it seems like you have a more of a, let me share with the world attitude, and we can all, if you get it in a spot, fantastic. I'm going to try to get in a spot, or maybe it never makes it into a spot, but it's something that sparks an interest. It piques your interest. It makes your eyebrows raise and your ears perk up.
And it's also a little bit counterintuitive to how I was for a lot of my career, or I think a lot of supervisors or DJs. Like DJs with vinyl, have white label. If someone goes to see what record is, they might cover it up because that's their record. They don't know what to have this thing.
Yeah.
That gatekeeping thing. And as a supervisor, I mentioned earlier, there's songs that we have for years that we keep pitching. And it might take, I've had songs that take like 10 years to place. I keep pitching it, and then finally it finds a home. Or you're just, walking around in my apartment and it's like, run out of the bathroom. Oh no, someone already used it. So I think for a while I didn't want to share these gems. And then I realized it's sort of that I just want, if the goal is to have more people hear great music, then like, why gatekeep that? If someone references one of these songs, if one of those songs gets put in an ad, then that does well, then that's the new bar. And so that means that now I have a little bit more headroom to try to push the boundaries even more. More people now know this, and now I can go further. So I think it's making all the work better.
Yeah.
And I think it's just getting more musicians paid that should get it. But it's that sort of thing of more supervisors, more other people. It just kind of feeds this ecosystem. And then now people kind of know my taste, and they'll send me stuff, and it just helps. But it is, I was very much, I think a lot of people are gatekeeping. Everyone has their gems. Yeah. They don't pitch. I'm like, no, here they are, everybody. Hope everyone likes them and shares them with their friends. And
what's the one gem that you finally got into a spot and it made you super happy?
I mean, this Bang Bang one was one. Stephen Bola sent it to me. He's like, hey, I think you'd like these weird covers. He probably sent them like 5 years ago, this Bang Bang cover. And then that is like a thing on a call, or there's recently, is that out yet? That's not out yet. We're doing, by the time this is out, will be good. There's a spot, Jimmy Butler on a horse. I don't know if you saw, there's a viral thing that was leaked intentionally on Reddit that made its way to ESPN of Jimmy Butler on a horse. And the spot is Jimmy Butler on a horse playing horse for the horse.
Nice.
And it's this old Ema Sumac track that's been remixed by this guy, Martin Wave, that I've also had for years. But it was one of those things where on the call, they said, I'm like, here's a track. I think I sent 2 ideas. That, and it was just boom, right on. Same thing with that Bang Bang track.
I was going to ask you, how long did it take to how many rounds did it take on that one?
That spot, which is a spot for the Tyson Fury Negreanu boxing fight in Riyadh that happened in October. That was supposed to be an original score. There was not a licensing budget. It was not supposed to be that. And once we got the film, it just didn't feel right. There was a lot of pre-scoring done before we shot to try to have something that would feel like it was using the sounds of training, but not in a way that's been done to death of like, you know, a Nike spot. Let's make a beat out of basketballs or car parts to do that in a fresh way. And the film was different. And one of the creatives said things like, something about like hitting or punching, or maybe what about that, you know, Nancy Sinatra Bang Bang. And I was like, it's too slow. Like, it's not it. But I have this crazy version of the song. And then that was, I think once that hit the cut, they edited to it and it has these horn hits and it's a total different thing. And prior to that, I was like, you know, they were like, you know, they wanted it stems of Nancy Sinatra. It's actually written by Sonny Bono, made famous by Nancy Sinatra. But, you know, that idea, and we did a bunch of stuff to beat it. But it was just, there's sometimes, I don't want to say easy, but it was just like right away, we need this track. And great producers like that on, you know, Roger and move mountains to make things happen. Or in the other way, there was a big Paramount Plus Super Bowl spot we did with Sir Patrick Stewart throwing "Hey Arnold" to the infamous. Laugh
because the first time I saw it, I didn't know what was happening. So as you say it, so nonchalant, Patrick Stewart throwing "Hey Arnold."
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
To none other than Creed's "Higher." Like that was another, I guess it was a weird string this year maybe, but they had another song in mind for a band that would not likely approve. And it was literally, they're like, we're going to client, like, do you have any ideas? I'm like, yeah, I'll go think of some stuff, send you some stuff tomorrow, end of day. Like, we have a client meeting in 30 minutes. I'm like, give me 10 minutes. Sat at my desk and based off the storyline and the you know, lyrics and things, I went back, it was like 10 songs and they wanted known recognizable. And I like the deep cuts, you know, I feel like if it's known recognizable, anyone can just think of it and do it on Spotify. And there is, you know, an art to it. I think we like to do the B-side, you know, if it's a song about, I don't know, going higher, Stevie Wonder high, you know, like Higher Ground, too obvious. Everyone would have thought there's also not less, we can get into my theory of Goosebumps in a minute if you want that. But essentially I was like, here's 9 songs like that could work. And then I was sort of like, I know you think I'm cool music guy. Hear me out. They're having a moment. Creed, Higher. And they're like, oh my God. And then in that moment, my creative director got into like a power stance and was like, I just pitched that for like, yes. I just pitched that for like a new business thing. It didn't go. It's so much better here. And the spot went from literally having like 3 lines of a song, like just about, you know, 3 lines, like not even, it was just a known recognizable song, 3 words, you know it, he splats a wall, that's the only musical part of it. They fell in love with it so much, like what if we got Creed on the Mountain? And so then they changed the script to modify it around the whole song. And then next thing you know, we're teaching Patrick Stewart in the voice of Hey Arnold how to sing this Creed song, which is not a bucket list thing I would have thought I had.
Amazing.
But they completely changed the script for that. And that one is just a fun one because it's like, man, my 7th grade band covered them. And I have this ski house with a bunch of best friends from college. And, you know, I don't think they care about my artsy stuff, but when we're partying in the ski house, Creed inevitably comes on. So I was very proud this year to be like, guys, I'm doing Super Bowl spot with Creed. So it was awesome. And they were great. The guys are great. It was awesome.
So, that's great.
There was other,
Give me the low point, the lowest point of your career.
Ooh. Well,
was it it was early in your career, you missed the mark on something? Was it a song that you thought was going to clear, never cleared, and you just like, your heart sunk and you didn't know what was going to happen if you had a job the next day?
Ooh, well, there's a couple different, there's disappointing ones. I got to work with Johnny Greenwood and the spot got killed. So that was brutal because it got killed in mix. Like it was done and then The whole
Why?
spot got killed. There was, client, some of that stuff can't say, but there was just a client that they didn't think it resonated in their territory. So it was a multi-territorial thing for where this is going to land. And it was just frustrating because it was awesome. And like I was saying, sometimes you don't get back what you this was shot for shot the board. And just there was one client representing another area of the world that I guess was unaware of this and just didn't approve. And so they had it. So that was killed for that reason. Sorry for being a little cryptic on that one.
No, I get it.
And then, God, it's also not, it's just disappointing moments for something not going where I wanted to. Let's see, it's funny. So the music process is something that I always try to bring a lot of energy and fun to. Because for many people, it's either they love music or they hate the music process within ads because of the subjectivity. And it can be the hardest to get everyone to agree to things, or they don't know the language of music.
It's
so if
hard
we're
to
working with a
articulate.
composer, right? The famous saying that known as talking about music is like tap dancing about architecture. Some client just, it's too shiny. It's like, what does that mean? More energy is something we always hear. And what is that? Okay, make it faster. That doesn't mean more energy.
Yeah.
So it's a big portion of the job is being a translator.
Yeah.
And talking music without talking music. And so there's that part that's really quite difficult and I think is somewhat of an art of convincing people why music choices work. Where do you place the song? I've actually read a lot of negotiation books and things about that to just try to figure out how do I sell through an idea that I like, how do I sell through music better? So a lot of
great point. It's a great point. I want to touch on that because I think when anybody trying to get into the industry is understanding the multifaceted conversations that happen within the industry and all the skill sets you need to acquire to get there. So getting your reps in, reading the books about negotiating, understanding how to talk to people, like you said earlier, being a good hang, being somebody who's cool to hang, understanding how to read the room, all these things contribute to your job. And you're like, well, don't you just do music? Well, yeah, that's one part of it, but being able to articulate it, being able to translate what the client is trying to say to articulate in a language that they don't speak in, how do you translate that to then the people who are working on it, to other musicians, to the rest of your team that's trying to find music and find that gem in whatever they're looking for. So I think that's such a key point that I think people need to understand is that what's happening in this music world and having to negotiate and navigate all of the opinions and the red tape. And I mean, we haven't even touched on what it's like having these conversations and negotiations with record labels, with artists and publishers. That's a whole other thing. This is really just about the selling of ideas, influencing people that this is the best song and here's why this nebulous thing, these noises mixed with this picture is better than these noises with the same picture. Yeah. And
convincing your team. And I think the playlist is a way to show I have taste or I listen to music.
Yeah.
So many, when I was, interviewing people or looking at resumes, it was like, how do I know you like music? The amount of people that had playlists was so small. Like, why is there, and they're so stoic. It's like maybe the old school way for business people, but what is the field? So for music is way more lax than other things. So like people talking like robots, I don't want, like, what's your personality? I got to hang with you. So seeing personality linking to playlists. I remember someone said, oh, here's my playlist, but don't judge me on my music. It's like, you're nope. Like the job is you are judged on your music. And you could be confident in being wrong, but here's why I like something. You don't have to agree, and that's fine. And I think there can be that thing to it. That's
the subjectivity to music for me.
Yeah.
Like, love what you love, have a reason for it. And then if you can justify it and convince people why this is so great, because maybe you're giving them a perspective that they never considered.
Totally.
Or maybe because of your experiences for the world that you live in, and you happen to be the demographic, the market that they're trying to speak to when it comes to an ad, maybe your perspective is the one that you need to fight for. And that's a whole other area to get into when it comes to your experiences, your influences, where you grew up, what music you like, your friends you hung out with, all of those things are contributing to those decisions that you're making in picking music.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then there's all other tactics of like, you know, you can have let other songs die, so it's your songs. There's all different, you know, there's other things or background checks. I don't know. It's like, you know, you could kind of use other things. You know, it's all data can be used to support or not support.
Sure.
Use it when it's convenient, I think.
Yeah. Man, you could teach a master class on that part alone. So your junior music supervisor, Mara, how did she get into the fold? Was it application? Like, so now you've gone through your trajectory to the position you are now. You've been there for a long time, senior music supervisor, helped create the music department at Droga 5. How are you looking for the next person who's going to contribute to the thing that you're trying to achieve for the agency, for your own goals and aspirations in terms of how you view this music department should be for the agency? How did you find her? Because you speak very highly of her.
Yeah.
All of our conversations way before this, you've always just been like, I got to send my flowers to Mara. She's incredible. So explain how that works.
I had freelance. Well, I was so used to working alone for 5 or 6 years, which is wild. And that's how some practices got put into place, whether it's lifestyle outside of work, again, that helps work, into like health and wellness. But I had freelancers for a while, and so much was also about just being like trust and giving up control and what like that can mean for someone else's confidence. But for literally how this particular thing happened, I also had a different intern the year prior, 2 years prior. It's got Jossie. They were awesome. And I was speaking when Clubhouse was a thing. I was speaking in that in pandemic, for anyone who knows that. I spoke in a lot of rooms, and someone said they were spoken. I pitch music. Also, I teach at College X. I'm like, hey, like cool music, sure. Happy to speak to kids. So I ended up virtually speaking to a class, and this one kid just had his hand up the whole time. How'd you do this? And you do this? And what about that? And like I did this Under Armour ad with Steph Curry and this old Pastor T.L. Barrett song. And he's like, that was you. That's my favorite ad. Just awesome energy. So he then later turns like, hey, I'm applying for internship. I was that kid in that class. And I think he followed me on Instagram, and we occasionally kept in touch. So that's how I hired him. He just showed interest for an intern. I wasn't supposed to hire him for the internship because he was way too young. I was only supposed to hire people who I could then hire after the internship. He still had 2 years left in college, and he's by far the best candidate.
Wow.
So he's awesome. I think he's maybe just graduated and trying to figure out school. And I know he hits me when he's in town and we're overdue to hang, but he showed all that interest. He was still in college when he couldn't be an intern again.
Right.
But this one, I was going through resumes and they're all boring. You know, it was tough to kind of get a gauge on a lot of people. I'd actually just passed over, as she says, but like passed over her resume. I'm like, I don't know, I can't tell. And probably 5 minutes later, I got an email from a good friend at Universal, Andrea, who said, hey, I heard, I just wanted to throw my recommendation for this girl, Mara, we've been in touch with for years. I wish I could have hired her, but the job didn't happen. And so coming from her, it was immediately like, you're going to Hollywood. So she made the short list along with 2 other people.
Yeah.
The 2 other people, one was an artist, one just had a lot of experience. And it was a really tough decision because Mara didn't have the experience. But on the call, she was someone like, I could just hang. It was the vibe test, really. One girl was very sweet, but she was an artist, and this was a stepping stone. It was kind of that question, like, so they're late nights because I might have to gig and things like that.
Right.
And this is such a sought after position that people will stop. Like, this is the destination. This isn't like the layover to get somewhere else for a lot of people. So she didn't have that. And then this other guy, it just didn't feel like the right match. I was like, I don't just see the hang there for whatever that is, which maybe is unfortunate. Mara was in media planning, and she just wanted to do this. Which I don't know if I was fully aware of how all that was, like her journey until after, but she was media planner and just wanted to do music. So she stopped, took courses, and then came back all to New York just to do this thing. So that's the kind of person I think you want. That's not someone who's going to be asking about hours or things like that. That's someone who wants to be here because they love this thing.
Right.
And then it's just been great. Super down to learn. And for me, management was tough because Droga's sound and stuff was, everything ran through me. When I had freelancers, every search I picked and curated took forever because I'd have freelancers at a time. It would take like 2 hours to go through everyone's tracks. And more and more, I just now let go. And I think you're saying, hey, if you think these tracks are great, send them. Like, I can't go through them. Like, I'll follow up tomorrow. If you think they're good, send them out to the creative team. And if you tell that to anyone at any level, you're going to go back and those 20 tracks are going to fastly become 8 or 10. There's some guesswork in there, like, knowing that someone else, that's not hurts for anyone, that someone else is going to curate these tracks for the creative. You're putting your name and sending it to, creative directors. I mean, it's wild that now they're just friends and they're equals. But I remember being a junior and being like, well, they're going to hear the songs and I'm just this little person. There's, the creative directors and agency they kind of run things. They're the people, whoever's in the room now.
Sure.
So when you're sending your music to them, your taste, a little bit of you, I like this thing.
It's vulnerable.
Big dog. There's a vulnerability to that. So, but giving that to someone, I was so worried about like my taste has to be good, and giving that to someone, I think gives them a lot of power.
Yeah.
And care. So you want someone who does care. You never want to just phone it in because it is.
Yeah, but it seems like you've developed a trust with your rapport with Mara to be able to be like, hey, I trust you to sift through some of these and get it out to people.
Yeah, it took a long time. I definitely, it took me a minute, and it was good I had freelancers because, like I said, it was more micromanaging everything because I was there's a sound here. And then, occasionally it's just bandwidth. I couldn't be in all these client meetings and other things and sift through every song so meticulously. So some things, I was like, oh, I wouldn't have pitched that song, but they like it. It's cool. And that helped me open up the other perspectives. Like, different age gap, different backgrounds. She's pitching different stuff. Some things I'm referencing, like Creed, she's like, yeah, I was like, was she born then? I'm not, like, there's a little bit of a difference. Like, I know them, but it doesn't, it's not funny in that way that it is for you guys. So there's just different perspectives and taste generation, and just in general, our tastes are different. I remember she said, well, I don't know how to pitch. Like, I don't know these old weird songs that I'm like, great, because I don't need another clone. I'd love to hear. I learned that early on. I would be like, no, I want these weird things. There's certain things I am like a hard no of, like, I don't think, there's some music I'm like, no, it's too addy because of the money in ads. There's so many things that are just made for ads that, to me, you can just feel it, and I don't want it to sound too generic-y. So there are stuff like that'll occasionally kill.
But I think that's you being in line with the North Star of your agency, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it is not giving people necessarily what they want. Like, at least not in the first round. There might be a thing that works, but it's the obvious thing that is not exciting.
And I think you've earned the credibility for that, and I think that's it. It takes a long time to get there. I think seeing the people coming up now, new at this, trying to understand how to get there. Thank you for sharing all of your insights on what kind of goes on in your head, how you get there. But, we're seeing that it takes a lot more than just knowing music. It takes a lot more than just having a playlist. It takes a lot more than just maybe having a background as a musician, right? There's so many things that have led up to who you are as a music supervisor, who Mara is as a junior music supervisor, people coming up in the world, other music supervisors that are your friends that you have, these banters with and text messages with, and sending each other pictures saying, hey, what song would you put to this picture? Like, there's fun games that music supervisors play, right? I think it's important for people to recognize that there's a package here that goes with it. It's not just this one skill set that you need to have. Being able to show up in an interview and not be a robot. Having a resume, having school stuff, how important was the school stuff for you when you saw it on resumes?
If that was the only thing to judge them, it's all I got. It depends on what that thing looked like. It's like, cool, I took geography. I don't know. I don't think people take that in college anymore. We kind of know things. But it's the whole package on there. It's like, how do you prove, that's what I always tell people, how do you show on paper you like and know this thing, music? So it's
easier to do as an accountant.
I just love it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you have on school? If not school, then that's where the playlist comes in.
But I think the lesson here too then is, to Mara's credit, is doing what she did at another place, even though that wasn't what she wanted to do, or meeting at her friend at the label, saw something in her enough to say, I think she would be great.
And that was her ability to also figure out, okay, this thing in music supervision, I like this. Take courses, who's doing it? And it was cold reaching out on LinkedIn. And Andrea's awesome enough to respond. And there's a difference between persistence and pestilence, for sure. Every day, did you listen to my music? How is anything new? And she kept in touch over a couple of years, built this relationship by just staying interested. I think you can tell if someone has a goal they just want to know, or they're after something, and how that pill is maybe masked in the peanut butter. But like, she navigated that to the point where Andrea was, well, you know, good at that. And also, that's not everyone go on LinkedIn and do that, you know. People, it depends, you know. I think some people are more, I'm not that much on LinkedIn, I kind of just accept, but like, you know, DMs can it just depends on the time of day and where that thing might hit. But yeah, so that was I think her credit to build that and find that and do that homework of who knows how many people she reached out to and probably got no messages back. Cold emailing is gnarly, you know. So
it's a whole other level in the music business, or the advertising business for that matter, you know? So because, you know, people are busy, people, you know, I mean, it's with any industry. How are you going to stand out
exactly
to get recognized, to get noticed, to get an opportunity, to get a face-to-face, to get an opportunity to get an interview, to get an opportunity to show who you are and what you do? Back in the day, we didn't have what we have now, social media. What is your social media saying? Because a lot of people who are trying to figure out who you are before having to actually have a conversation, that's where they're going.
100%. That is a big thing. People don't want to know that. I just, knowing some people like, yeah, we checked out the social media, and it's, people could say that's, you know, not the way it should be or is unfair, but it's how it is. So you could be mad at the clouds, or like, I don't know, curate it. So that's, curate it. You know, mine is probably boring. It's just like music and awards. There's not much personal life really on there, which has gotten me in some trouble in some situations in the past. But like, it's like, to me, it's more my website than anything else. So it's, you know, here's concerts I'm at, here's music, here's maybe some awards I've won, or things I'm speaking about. What it's not is you shaking
your booty.
No.
What it's not is
I don't want to break the internet. Come on now.
What it's not is you being sloppy at some concert that you got free tickets to and posting, being stupid.
Hopefully, that might be on some early Facebook from college. That hopefully is like, but that was Facebook. That was that point. So I think kids are smarter now. I think we use Instagram way different than kids are. They have like 3 photos, but
I hope so.
It is a very real thing. Like it could be. It's data. It could be used. You can use it for your advantage, or just make it nothing and, you know, but I think there's, it's just a thing, and people check it. So
wow, dude, you have been a wealth of information. I think anybody who's looking to get into this as a career, or maybe now thinks that maybe it's not the career for them, it's helpful either way.
Hopefully,
So I appreciate you coming down, hanging out, having a conversation. How can people find you?
The playlist is Ladman Music Discovery, and then there's a date, and it changes at some point roughly every week.
Awesome.
Or when I update it. So Ladman, Ladman, Music Discovery, one word. That's my IG handle, Ladman Music, and it's kind of keeping that branding tight.
Amazing. I appreciate you coming down, man. This has been an amazing opportunity to just sit down, talk shop, be all about the music, and I love hearing your history. I'm a hockey music guy myself, so
let's go Rangers. This is an exciting year. They lost the Isles last night, but it's all right.
No, this has been great. All right, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.